Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this is my review of Don't Breathe. So if you've watched my channel by now, you should know I love me a good horror movie, and I seem to be a little bit more lenient on horror when it comes to quality. And it's all just kind of about the experience. Is it a scary experience? Is it a fun experience? Did I have a good time? Really, that's kind of my criteria for every movie, but it seems especially the case when we get to scary films. So that brings us to Don't Breathe. It looked scary. It looked like a fun, good concept from the trailers, and I have to say, it turned out to be a pretty fun movie. So starting off with the cast, I think that Jane Levy did a very good job as our lead. I think she was solid overall. Nothing spectacular actually from Jane Levy, but she was really good. I think Dylan Minnette was really good. He kind of stole the show for me. He was my favorite character. I just enjoyed every time he was on screen, and he seemed to be the character I was rooting the most for, even over our main female character. The last of our trio of, punk kids who break into this guy's house was played by Daniel Zavato, and he was a little bit one note, and I think that dealt with both his performance and the writing of his character. So for me, but I guess you have to have those kind of characters in scary movies. Can't root for them all, right? As for Stephen Lang as our old man, our old blind man here, I thought he was good and not good all at once. It was a very uneven performance. Stephen Lang is an intimidating presence in of himself. Like, he's just big, bulky, kind of militant looking man, so he just is intimidating. So in that respect, he's perfect to play this role. However, I don't know that he really sold the blindness of the role all the time. Sometimes he seemed very blind, and then sometimes it was like, oh, okay, so you're an actor playing a blind person. Cool. And that unevenness was, again, partial to the script, but had a lot to do with Stephen Lang's portrayal. And I think that unevenness kept this movie from actually being as scary as it could have, because I don't think it actually was all that scary. There were times when we built suspense really, really well. There is one sequence in particular when they are all in the dark and kind of all on an even playing field, or nevertheless the blind man has brought these other people down, even below his playing field. They brought him into his world instead of them having the advantage running around in their world. And it was fantastic. I actually wish we had had more of that sequence, that setting had lasted longer than they allowed it to go. And there were other sequences with the Rottweiler that were just really just like, oh my god, suspenseful. But overall, I don't think there were that many scares. I don't think there's anything that's going to leave you feeling completely terrified as you leave the theater. You're going to be able to sleep after you watch this movie. But there are just so many good aspects to the film that I think you're going to leave also having enjoyed the movie. As I just said, there are individual sequences throughout the film that are so amazing. It's just good, solid thriller through and through. There are moments with, tight spaces. There are moments with falling from things. There are moments of like, oh my god, what are you doing? Like everything you expect from a solid thriller. There are also a couple of twists in here that are impossible to project. There is no way that you're gonna guess it, but it doesn't feel unearned. It feels authentic to what's happening, and then they lead to some pretty shocking moments that kind of turn this into a horror comedy. So this is from the creators of The Evil Dead, so you kind of expect that tone of really gruesome, but also pretty funny. And I know some parts of it are completely gross and disgusting, but they're also pretty hilarious, and you're just like, oh my god. Like, we have really crossed into a little bit ridiculous, a little bit outrageous, but it's fun. It's funny, it's fun, I'm gonna go along with it. And I think that's what works with Don't Breathe, is it knows that it has just crossed over into something just so outrageous and ridiculous that it also has a lot of fun with the audience. It never takes itself so seriously, but it also doesn't let itself off the hook from at least keeping this within the horror genre. But my biggest problems coming from the film are just the missed opportunities and those inconsistencies I mentioned before. Stephen Lang's character goes from being completely just acute to everything to being acute to nothing. And I think you have to have it one or the other. I mean, these characters clearly could breathe in some parts pretty loudly, and he couldn't detect them. And then other instances, even if they took a small breath, he knew where they were. So I think you can't have it both ways. You have to make his character either have that amazing sense of hearing or an iffy sense of hearing. Same thing with smell. At some points, you would think he was a frickin' bloodhound. He could smell things so well. And then you kind of think back after they really reveal that part of his character, and at the beginning of the movie, you're like, well, he couldn't smell anything. Like, I mean, that helped him zero. And then he kind of reverts back to that at the end as well. Thankfully, he has a vicious Cujo-style Rottweiler that always has a great sense of smell and is always ready for the attack. I mean, that Rottweiler was pretty terrifying. And then we had character moments where it's like, oh, didn't your ankle just get really badly injured? And then 5 minutes later, that character is bolting. I mean, they might as well be competing in the Olympics right now. Like, they're running so fast. So, and they're jumping over things. You're just like, how does that work exactly? So those are the kind of inconsistencies that really brought this movie down from just being an amazing horror, comedy, funny, entertaining, fun time to just a good horror, comedy, entertaining, fun time. But I really think, especially if you enjoyed the new Evil Dead, you should go and see Don't Breathe, because it is a really fun, funny time. If you're looking to just be completely scared out of your skin, this is not the movie that I think necessarily you need to go see. But if you don't mind a little bit of gross out humor and you don't mind some comedy mixed in with your scary, then this is a perfect movie for you, and I think you'll really, really appreciate it for what it is. So my personal recommendation is Don't Breathe deserves a full price ticket. It's just such a good, fun time. And as I always say, if you're going to see a scary movie in the theaters, you got to see it on a Friday or Saturday night. So you have to pay that full price. So that was my review of Don't Breathe. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click like down below and subscribe to the channel so you are always up to date on our latest videos. Also, join in on the discussion. Are you excited to see Don't Breathe? And what is your favorite horror comedy? Let me know either in the comment section down below or hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!